They say the delivery room is where miracles happen. They don't mention the nightmares. I'm Nick Renner, 40 years old, general manager of Romano's Italian Kitchen, and until 3 hours ago, I thought I was about to become a father for the third time. My wife Marissa had been in labor for 12 grueling hours, her perfectly manicured nails digging crescents into my palm every time a contraction hit. "Push, Marissa! I can see the head!" Dr. Hussein encouraged from between her legs, his usually calm demeanor showing cracks of excitement. The delivery room smelled like antiseptic and sweat. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in harsh white. Marissa's fitness instructor physique, even 9 months pregnant, made her look like she could bench press the hospital bed. Her auburn hair was matted with perspiration, but she still looked beautiful. She always did. That's when everything went wrong. Dr. Who's face went white as fresh hospital sheets. His hands trembled as he lifted something I couldn't quite see. The baby wasn't crying. The silence stretched like a taut wire about to snap. "Let me see my baby!" Marissa screamed, trying to lift herself up. Dr. Hoos caught my eye over her head. His mouth moved silently, forming words that made my blood freeze. "Run, just run." I glimpsed the baby for just a second. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The limbs looked incomplete, twisted. The skin had an odd grayish tint that didn't belong on any living thing. "Mr. Renner," Dr. Who said quickly, his voice tight with panic, "I need you to step outside, now." "What's wrong with my baby?" Marissa shrieked. The doctor was already moving, wrapping the silent bundle in blankets, his movements frantic. "Please, Mr. Renner, leave. Don't ask questions. Just leave." I stumbled into the hallway, my legs feeling like they were made of wet concrete. The fluorescent lights seemed brighter out here, more accusatory. A nurse rushed past me without making eye contact. That's when it hit me like a freight train loaded with uncomfortable truths. It's not my kid. I know it. I've always known. The signs had been there for months. Hell, maybe years. Marissa's late nights at the gym, her secretive phone calls, the way she'd started sleeping on her side, turned away from me. The kiss I'd witnessed between her and her brother Derek at last year's Christmas party. Too long, too intimate, too wrong. And then there was Chase Morrison. Chase was Marissa's workout partner at Elite Fitness. Ex-military, built like a Greek statue, with the kind of confident swagger that made other men feel inadequate just by existing. He'd been coming around the house more often, helping Marissa with training routines. I'd catch them laughing at inside jokes, their hands lingering when they passed each other water bottles. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called my brother Tom. "Nick, how's the baby?" "Tom, I need you to come to Briarwood Hospital, now." "What's wrong? Is Marissa okay?" I stared at the delivery room door, behind which my wife was probably still screaming for answers about a baby that wasn't mine. "Everything's wrong. Everything." 2 weeks later, after the baby had been quietly transferred to a specialized facility that Dr. Hizu refused to discuss, I had my proof. The DNA test results sat on my kitchen table like a death certificate for my marriage. 0% probability of paternity. I left Marissa a letter on the granite countertop she'd insisted we install last year. "Hope the child's father takes care of you. The divorce papers are with my attorney." I sold our 4-bedroom colonial in Maple Heights and moved into Tom's guest room in his modest ranch house on Elm Street. Tom was a detective with Briarwood PD, divorced himself 3 years ago, and he understood the particular kind of betrayal that hollows you out from the inside. "You did the right thing," he told me as I unpacked my pathetic collection of belongings, mostly clothes and a few books. Everything else had been ours, which meant it was really hers. "Did I?" "Ava and Jamie are asking why Daddy doesn't live at home anymore." My daughters, 8 and 6, with Marissa's green eyes and my stubborn chin. At least I knew they were mine. The timing worked out, and they looked like little versions of me at that age. "Kids are resilient," Tom said, cracking open 2 beers. "They'll understand when they're older." That's when I found the envelope. It was sitting on Tom's front porch the next morning. No postmark, no return address, just my name written in block letters across cream-colored paper. Inside were photographs that made my stomach clench like a fist. Marissa and Chase, naked and intertwined on what looked like a hotel bed. Multiple photos from different angles, different positions, professional quality, like someone had been watching them for a while. The timestamp showed they were taken 6 months ago, when Marissa was 3 months pregnant. At the bottom of the stack was a handwritten note. "You don't know the half of it." Briarwood was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone else's business, usually before they knew it themselves. Population 23,000, with a charming downtown district full of boutique shops and coffee places where soccer moms gathered to dissect their neighbors' lives with surgical precision. Elite Fitness sat right in the heart of downtown, a gleaming temple to physical perfection with floor-to-ceiling windows that let everyone see who was working out with whom. I'd driven past it 1,000 times on my way to Romano's, never thinking much about it. Now I couldn't stop thinking about it. "You're obsessing," Tom said over breakfast. He was getting ready for his shift, adjusting his holster and badge. "It's not healthy. I'm investigating," I corrected, stirring my coffee. "There's a difference. You're not a detective, Nick. You run a restaurant." "Yeah, well, apparently I'm not much of a husband either." Tom sat down across from me, his expression serious. "Look, I get it. I've been where you are, but stalking your ex-wife isn't going to make you feel better. I'm not stalking anyone. I'm just observing." The truth was, I couldn't let it go. The photos, the note, the certainty that there was more to discover. Marissa had been living a double life, and I'd been too busy managing inventory and staff schedules to notice. I decided to start with the gym. Elite Fitness smelled like rubber mats and expensive protein powder. The walls were lined with mirrors that reflected an endless parade of toned bodies and designer workout clothes. I'd signed up for a trial membership using my middle name, hoping to blend in. "Nick? Nick Renner?" I turned to see Nicole Hartley, Marissa's best friend and fellow fitness enthusiast. Nicole was blonde, artificially enhanced, and had the kind of smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Oh, hi Nicole." I tried to sound casual. "Just thought I'd try working out. You know, new beginnings and all that." Her smile got tighter. "How are you holding up? I heard about everything." Everything. As if my marriage imploding was just a minor inconvenience, like a flat tire or a bad haircut. "I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually." Nicole's eyes narrowed slightly. "Marissa's really struggling, you know. What you did, leaving her right after the baby. It was pretty cold." I felt my jaw clench. "What I did? Everyone's talking about it. How you just abandoned her when she needed you most. Some people are saying you never really loved her at all." The gossip mill was already grinding, churning out its own version of events. In Briarwood's collective imagination, I was the villain, the cold husband who walked out on his wife after a difficult birth. "And what do you think, Nicole?" She shrugged, adjusting her sports bra. "I think Marissa deserves better. She always has." I wanted to tell her about the DNA test, about the photos, about the fact that her best friend was a lying, cheating sociopath. Instead, I smiled. "Well, I hope she finds what she's looking for." I spent the next hour on the elliptical machine, positioned where I could watch the personal training area. Chase was there, of course, working with a middle-aged woman who hung on his every word. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd never been told no, his muscles rippling under a tight black t-shirt. At closing time, I followed him to the parking lot. Chase drove a lifted black pickup truck with custom rims and a bumper sticker that read "Pain is weakness leaving the body." He'd parked it across 2 spaces, because apparently the rules didn't apply to him. I was walking to my car when I saw it. "Underdog," spray-painted across my Honda's hood in bright red letters. Chase was standing about 20 feet away, pretending to check his phone. When he saw me notice the vandalism, he smirked. "Problem, Nick?" I walked over to him slowly, my hands relaxed at my sides. I'd boxed in college, nothing fancy, just Golden Gloves competition. But I still remembered how to carry myself in a fight. "You know, Chase, I always wondered what kind of man sleeps with another man's pregnant wife." His smirk faltered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Now I know. The kind who vandalizes cars in parking lots like a teenage punk." Chase stepped closer, using his height advantage to try to intimidate me. He was bigger, younger, probably stronger. But I'd spent 20 years dealing with drunk customers, angry suppliers, and stressed-out kitchen staff. I knew how to handle bullies. "You need to be careful what you say about people, Nick. This is a small town. People talk." "Yeah, they do. They talk about a lot of things. Like how you've been training more than just Marissa's abs." His face flushed red. "You don't know shit. I know enough, and if you ever touch my property again, you'll regret it." I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there with his fists clenched. My heart was pounding, but I felt more alive than I had in months. That night, I found Marissa's old gym bag in the closet of our former bedroom. She'd left it behind in her hurry to move out. Inside, wrapped in a towel, was a burner phone. The text history made my stomach turn. Hundreds of messages, not just with Chase, but with other men. Explicit photos, detailed descriptions of encounters, plans for meetings. Marissa hadn't just been having an affair. She'd been running a one-woman entertainment service for half the men in Briarwood. One name kept appearing: Liam Torres, Chase's best friend and co-owner of Elite Fitness. The last text was from 3 days ago. Party at the usual place Friday night. Bring friends. I looked at the calendar. Tomorrow is Friday. The usual place turned out to be a warehouse on the outskirts of town that Liam used for storing gym equipment. I'd spent the morning doing reconnaissance, which mostly involved sitting in my car drinking coffee and feeling like a discount private investigator. Sarah Chen worked the lunch shift at Romano's. She was 28, smart, and had been harboring what she thought was a secret crush on me for about 2 years. I'd always been faithful to Marissa, but I wasn't blind. Sarah was pretty in an understated way, with long black hair and expressive brown eyes that lit up whenever I walked into the dining room. "You look terrible," she said, refilling my coffee cup in the break room. "Thanks, that's exactly what I needed to hear." "I'm serious, Nick. When's the last time you slept?" I rubbed my eyes. "Sleep is overrated." Sarah sat down across from me, her expression concerned. "Everyone's talking about what happened with Marissa. I'm sorry." "Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me." She raised an eyebrow. "Really? Really? I just wish I'd figured it out sooner." Sarah was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward. "Can I tell you something? As a friend, sure. I never liked her. Marissa, I mean. She always seemed fake, like she was performing instead of just being herself." "Why didn't you say anything? Would you have listened?" She had a point. I'd been so wrapped up in trying to be the perfect husband that I'd ignored all the warning signs. "Sarah, I need a favor. Anything. I need to get into Elite Fitness after hours. Do you still date that guy who does their security system?" Her cheeks flushed. "Marcus? We went out a few times. It wasn't serious." "Could you call him? Tell him you left something in the gym and need to get in?" "Nick, what are you planning?" "Nothing illegal. I just need to see something." She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but you owe me dinner. A real dinner, not just employee meal." "Deal." That evening, Sarah met me at Elite Fitness with Marcus Webb, a skinny guy in his 30s who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. 15 minutes, Marcus said, disabling the alarm system. "That's all I can give you." The gym was eerily quiet after hours, emergency lighting casting long shadows across the equipment. Sarah and I made our way to the office area, where I'd seen Chase and Liam disappearing earlier that day. "What exactly are we looking for?" Sarah whispered. "Security footage, financial records, anything that proves what I think is going on here." The office was unlocked, which seemed careless until I realized that most people in Briarwood still operated on small-town trust. The computer was password protected, but the filing cabinet wasn't. Inside, I found membership records, equipment receipts, and a folder labeled private sessions that made my blood boil. It contained photos of at least a dozen women, including Marissa, along with detailed notes about their preferences and availability. "Jesus Christ," Sarah breathed, looking over my shoulder. "They're running a prostitution ring." "Not prostitution. Swinging. Rich, bored housewives looking for excitement." I photographed everything with my phone, my hands shaking with anger. These bastards had turned my wife into just another entry in their perverted catalog. "Nick, we need to go," Sarah urged. "Marcus is getting nervous." As we were leaving, I noticed the security camera positioned over the main workout area. On impulse, I asked Marcus about accessing the footage. "It's all digital now," he explained, "stored on a cloud server. I could get you access, but it would take a few days." "Do it." 3 days later, Sarah handed me a flash drive during the dinner rush. "You're not going to like what's on there," she warned. She was right. The footage showed Marissa and Chase together multiple times over the past 6 months. But it also showed something worse. Nicole, Marissa's supposed best friend, was in on it. She'd been filming some of their encounters, probably for blackmail or just sick entertainment. But the worst part was seeing Marissa with other men. Lots of other men, including Derek, her brother, in footage that made me want to throw my laptop out the window. I needed revenge, not violence. I wasn't that kind of person, but something that would hurt them the way they'd hurt me. I started with Chase. The next evening, I waited until Chase finished his last training session of the day. Elite Fitness had a sauna in the back that was rarely used, mostly because Briarwood's climate didn't really call for additional heat and humidity. I'd spent the afternoon studying the building's layout and mechanical systems. The sauna door had an electronic lock that could be controlled from the main desk, and I'd convinced Marcus to give me temporary admin access to the gym's systems. Chase was predictable. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he stayed late to use the sauna, claiming it helped with muscle recovery. What it really helped with was his ego. He liked to walk around naked, admiring himself in the mirrors. At 9:30 p.m., I triggered the lock remotely. At 9:45, Chase started pounding on the door. By 10 o'clock, he was screaming. I'd positioned a small camera outside the sauna to record his panic. The footage was priceless. Chase Morrison, tough guy and lady killer, reduced to a sweating, terrified mess, begging to be let out. I released the lock at 10:15, just as he was starting to hyperventilate. He stumbled out, gasping and disoriented, his perfect hair plastered to his skull with sweat. The next morning, I uploaded the video to the gym's private Facebook group with the caption, "Even tough guys have their breaking point." Within hours, it had been shared dozens of times. Chase became a laughingstock, his reputation for unshakable confidence destroyed by 15 minutes of raw panic. But I was just getting started. Erica Morrison had been watching me from across the coffee shop for 10 minutes before she finally approached my table. Chase's wife was nothing like I'd expected. Instead of the trophy blonde I'd imagined, she was brunette, probably in her early 40s, with intelligent eyes and the kind of quiet confidence that came from genuine strength rather than gym-built muscles. "You're Nick Renner," she said, sliding into the seat across from me without invitation. "Guilty. I'm Erica Morrison. I think we need to talk." I'd been expecting this conversation ever since the sauna incident went viral. Chase had probably sent his wife to negotiate some kind of truce, or maybe to threaten me with legal action. "If you're here to defend your husband, I'm here to help you destroy him." That got my attention. Erica opened her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "Chase has been blackmailing your wife for months. He found out about her relationship with her brother and threatened to expose it unless she stayed with him." She slid the envelope across the table. Inside were bank records showing regular payments from Marissa's account to Chase's, along with copies of text messages that made my skin crawl. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want my life back. Chase has been humiliating me for years, and I'm tired of pretending everything's fine." Erica's plan was elegant in its simplicity. She'd been documenting Chase's affairs for months, building a case for divorce that would leave him with nothing. But she wanted more than just financial victory. She wanted him publicly ruined, the same way he'd ruined her reputation by flaunting his conquests around town. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Keep doing what you're doing. Push him until he makes a mistake. A big, public mistake." That evening, I put the plan into motion. Romano's hosted trivia night every Wednesday, and it was always packed with the same crowd of regulars. I'd convinced Sarah to be the MC, which gave me control over the questions and the microphone. Marissa and Chase were there, sitting at a corner table with Nicole and Liam. They looked cozy, like two couples on a double date. Marissa was wearing a tight red dress that showed off her post-pregnancy figure, and Chase kept his hand on her thigh throughout dinner. "Okay, folks, time for our lightning round," Sarah announced. "This week's category is local scandals and secrets." The crowd laughed, thinking it was just harmless fun. First question. What local fitness instructor was recently caught on camera having a panic attack in a sauna? Chase's face went red as laughter rippled through the room. Several people turned to look at him, grinning. Second question. Which downtown gym has been hosting private couples therapy sessions after hours? The laughter died down as people started to realize this wasn't random trivia. Third question. What married woman has been making regular cash payments to her personal trainer for services that definitely weren't fitness-related? Marissa stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is harassment." "Final question," Sarah continued, her voice carrying clearly through the suddenly quiet restaurant. "What's the going rate for blackmail in Briarwood these days?" Chase jumped up, his face purple with rage. "You son of a bitch!" He started toward me, but Tom appeared out of nowhere, his badge visible on his belt. "I wouldn't, if I were you." The entire restaurant was staring now, phones coming out to record the drama. Chase looked around wildly, realizing he was trapped. Anything he said would just make things worse. "You're all pathetic," Marissa hissed, grabbing her purse. "Come on, Chase, we're leaving." They pushed through the crowd toward the exit, followed by Nicole and Liam. but the damage was done. By morning, half the town would know about their affair, and the other half would be speculating about the details. That was brutal, Tom said, joining me at the bar after the crowd dispersed. It was necessary. What's your next move? I smiled. I'm going to give them exactly what they want. The next morning, I called my attorney, Miss Harris, a bulldog of a woman who'd handled Tom's divorce and came highly recommended for her scorched earth approach to family law. I want to file for sole custody of my daughters, I told her. On what grounds? I handed her copies of everything: the DNA test, the bank records, the photos, the security footage. She whistled low as she flipped through the evidence. This is a gold mine. Your wife's going to be lucky if she gets supervised visitation. That's the idea. While Miss Harris prepared the legal paperwork, I focused on the gym. Erica had given me the schedule for their next private party, and I'd convinced Tom to stage a raid based on anonymous tips about illegal gambling. You know this is borderline entrapment, right? Tom said as we sat in his patrol car outside the warehouse. It's not entrapment if they're actually breaking the law. What law? Adults having consensual sex isn't illegal. How about operating a business without proper permits? Health code violations? Tax evasion? Tom grinned. Now you're thinking like a cop. At 11 p.m., we watched Chase and Liam arrive with a group of women I recognized from around town. Marissa wasn't with them. She was probably home with the baby, playing the role of devoted mother. Tom waited another 30 minutes, then called for backup. 2 more patrol cars arrived, and they moved in. I watched from across the street as Chase and Liam were led out in handcuffs, not for anything serious, just trespassing and operating without permits. But the humiliation was priceless. The women were questioned and released, but not before several of them were photographed by a local reporter who'd been tipped off about the raid. The story made the front page of the Briarwood Gazette the next morning. Local gym owners arrested in after-hours scandal. Chase made bail by noon, but his reputation was finished. Elite Fitness lost half its members within a week, and the bank started foreclosure proceedings on the building. That's when Marissa made her desperate play. The Briarwood Youth Soccer League played their games at Memorial Park every Saturday morning. It was a wholesome, family-friendly environment where parents sipped coffee from travel mugs and cheered for their kids while pretending not to be living vicariously through 8-year-olds kicking a ball around a grass field. Ava had a game at 10 a.m. She was playing midfielder for the Lightning Bolts, a team name that was far more intimidating than the actual players. At 8 years old, Ava was more interested in picking dandelions than scoring goals, but she enjoyed the social aspect of being part of a team. I was standing on the sideline with my coffee, watching Ava chase the ball with the determined focus of someone who wasn't entirely sure what she was supposed to do with it once she caught it. When I saw Marissa's car pull into the parking lot, she wasn't supposed to be there. Our custody agreement was very specific. I had the kids on weekends, she had them Wednesday evenings and every other Thursday. Today was my day. Marissa got out of her silver BMW, looking like she was dressed for a photo shoot rather than a soccer game. Designer jeans, perfect makeup, hair that probably took an hour to style. She was playing the role of devoted mother for an audience that was already whispering about her. She walked straight onto the field, ignoring the fact that the game was still in progress. Ava, Mommy's here. Ava looked confused, glancing between Marissa and me. The other kids stopped playing, unsure what was happening. The referee, a teenager who probably just wanted to earn some extra money on weekends, looked like he wished he was anywhere else. Marissa, what are you doing? I called out, walking onto the field. I'm taking my daughter home. It's not your day. We have a custody agreement. She turned to face me, her green eyes blazing with the kind of righteous anger that only comes from being completely in the wrong but refusing to admit it. I don't care about some piece of paper. She's my daughter. The other parents were watching now, phones coming out to record what was obviously going to become another chapter in the ongoing soap opera of Nick and Marissa Renner's marriage. Mommy, I want to finish my game, Ava said in a small voice. We're leaving now, sweetheart. Daddy's been saying mean things about Mommy, and we need to go somewhere safe. That's when I saw Chase's pickup truck pull into the parking lot. He got out slowly, his face still bearing the marks of public humiliation from the past few weeks. He looked like a man who had nothing left to lose, which made him dangerous. There's Daddy's friend, Marissa said brightly, waving to Chase. He's going to help us. Tom appeared at my elbow. He'd been watching Jamie's game on the next field over, but he'd obviously noticed the commotion. "Problem here?" he asked, his hand resting casually on his radio. "No problem," Marissa said quickly. "I'm just picking up my daughter." During Nick's custody time, Chase reached us then, his jaw set with determination. "This doesn't concern you, officer." "Actually, it does. I'm Detective Tom Renner, Nick's brother, and I'm off duty. But I'm also a witness to what looks like attempted custodial interference." The crowd of parents was growing larger. Kids from both games had stopped playing to watch the drama unfold. Ava looked like she was about to cry. "I'm not letting him poison my children against me," Marissa said, her voice rising. "He's been spreading lies all over town, trying to make me look bad." "What lies?" I asked calmly. "You know what lies." "Actually, I don't. Everything I've said about you has been the truth. Would you like me to be more specific? Here, in front of all these people?" Marissa's face went pale. She realized she was trapped in a situation of her own making, surrounded by witnesses, with no legal right to take Ava. "Come on, baby," she said to Ava, reaching for her hand. "Let's go home." "I want to stay with Daddy," Ava said, stepping behind me. And that's when Chase made his mistake. "Listen, kid," he said to Ava, his voice taking on a tone that made every parent within earshot tense up. "Your mommy loves you, and she wants you to come with her. Don't be difficult." "Don't talk to my daughter," I said, stepping between them. "She's not your daughter," Chase sneered. "None of them are." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Several parents gasped. Ava's eyes filled with tears. "What does he mean, Daddy?" I knelt down to Ava's level, my heart breaking for her. "He means he's a very confused man who doesn't understand how families work. You're my daughter, and I love you more than anything in the world." "That's not what the DNA test says," Marissa said viciously. Tom stepped forward, his professional demeanor slipping. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave, now." "I'm not going anywhere without my daughter." "Yes, you are." The authority in Tom's voice cut through Marissa's hysteria. She looked around at the crowd of parents, all of whom were staring at her with a mixture of disgust and pity. Her perfect image was cracking, revealing the ugly reality underneath. "This isn't over," she said to me. "Yes, it is." She stormed off the field, Chase following behind her like a whipped dog. They got in their respective cars and drove away, leaving behind a crowd of witnesses who would be talking about this incident for weeks. I spent the rest of the morning explaining to Ava that sometimes adults say mean things when they're angry, and that no matter what anyone said, she would always be my daughter. She seemed to accept this with the resilience that kids have, but I knew the damage was done. That evening, Miss Harris called with good news. The judge saw the video from the soccer field. Marissa's visitation has been reduced to supervised only, and she's been ordered to undergo psychological evaluation. What about Chase? What about him? He has no legal standing in this case. He's just some guy who threatened a child in public. But I knew Chase wasn't done. Men like him didn't accept defeat gracefully. They lashed out, they got desperate, and they made increasingly bad decisions. I was counting on it. The charity boxing exhibition was my idea, though I let Chase think it was his. Briarwood Community Center hosted various fundraising events throughout the year, and they'd been looking for something different to draw a crowd. I suggested a Battle of the Generations boxing match between local business owners, with proceeds going to the youth sports programs. Chase couldn't resist the opportunity to publicly humiliate me. In his mind, I was just a soft restaurant manager who'd gotten lucky with a few pranks. He was the ex-military tough guy with actual combat training. It would be a massacre, and it would restore his reputation as the alpha male of Briarwood. What he didn't know was that I'd been training. For the past month, I'd been working out at a gym in the next town over, sparring with guys who'd actually fought professionally. My college boxing experience was 20 years old, but muscle memory is a powerful thing. More importantly, I'd been studying Chase, learning his patterns, his weaknesses, his tells. Chase was strong and aggressive, but he was also predictable. He relied on intimidation and brute force rather than technique. He telegraphed his punches, dropped his guard when he got excited, and had a tendency to lose his temper when things didn't go his way. The exhibition was scheduled for a Saturday evening, with the whole town invited. Tickets were $20 each, and they'd sold out within a week. Everyone wanted to see the final confrontation between the cuckolded husband and his wife's lover. The community center's gymnasium had been transformed into a makeshift boxing venue, with folding chairs arranged around a regulation ring that had been borrowed from a gym in the city. The crowd was a mixture of curious townspeople, boxing fans, and social media vultures hoping to witness something spectacular. Marissa was there, sitting in the front row with Nicole and Liam. She was wearing a tight black dress and had her hair styled in loose waves that framed her face perfectly. She looked like she was attending a premiere rather than a charity boxing match. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer began, "welcome to the first annual Briarwood Battle of the Generations." The crowd cheered as Chase entered the ring first, shadowboxing and flexing for the cameras. He was wearing red trunks and had Warrior printed across his back in gold letters. His entrance music was some aggressive rock song that was probably supposed to make him seem intimidating. I entered to polite applause, wearing simple blue trunks and a t-shirt. No fancy music, no showboating. I looked like exactly what I was supposed to be, the underdog who was about to get demolished. "In the red corner," the announcer continued, weighing in at 195 pounds, former Army Ranger and personal trainer Chase Morrison. Chase raised his gloves and flexed again, soaking up the cheers from his supporters. "And in the blue corner, weighing in at 178 pounds, restaurant manager and father of two, Nick Renner." My applause was more subdued, but I noticed it was also more genuine. The people cheering for me weren't just hoping to see a good show. They were rooting for justice. The referee called us to the center of the ring for instructions. Chase leaned in close during the glove touch. "I'm going to embarrass you in front of the whole town," he whispered. "You already did that to yourself," I replied. The bell rang for round one. Chase came out swinging, throwing wild haymakers that would have knocked me out if they'd connected. But they didn't connect. I slipped and ducked and moved, letting him wear himself out while I studied his rhythm. Halfway through the round, I started counterpunching. Nothing dramatic, just quick jabs and body shots that scored points and frustrated him. By